Google Search. It started as a research project at Stanford in the late 1990s, built by two PhD students who wanted a better way to rank web pages. The idea was simple but powerful. Instead of just counting keywords, it measured how many other pages linked to a page, treating links like votes. That method changed how the internet worked. Today, billions of searches happen on it every day, in almost every language, covering everything from medical questions to recipe ideas. It remains the most visited website in the world. Google Chrome. When it launched in 2008, Internet Explorer still dominated the browser market. Chrome came in with a clean interface and a focus on speed, and it grew quickly. Google built an entirely new JavaScript engine for it, which made web applications run noticeably faster. Over the following years, it became the most used browser globally. It also became the foundation for Chromium, an open-source project that now powers dozens of other browsers made by different companies. Gmail. Google launched it on April 1, 2004, and people thought it was a joke, not because of the date, but because it offered 1 GB of free storage at a time when other email services gave a fraction of that. It was invitation-only for years, which made it feel exclusive. Over time, it became the most widely used email service on Earth. What set it apart early on was how it organized conversations as threads instead of individual messages, and how search worked inside it just as well as it did on the web. Google Maps. Before it existed, getting directions meant printing them out, or buying a physical map. Google Maps launched in 2005 and slowly made all of that obsolete. It combined satellite imagery, street-level data, and real-time traffic into a single tool that anyone could use for free. Street View came a couple of years later, letting people virtually walk through streets in cities they had never visited. Today it covers most of the world and is used for everything from local navigation to planning trips across continents. YouTube. Google did not build YouTube. It bought it in 2006 for $1.65 billion, just over a year after the platform launched. At the time, many people thought it was an overpayment. It turned out to be one of the most valuable acquisitions in tech history. YouTube became the place where people go to learn, watch entertainment, follow creators, and consume news. It is now the second most visited website in the world, and every minute, hundreds of hours of new video are uploaded to it. Google Drive. It launched in 2012 as a cloud storage service, but it quickly became something more than just a place to store files. Combined with Google Docs, Sheets, and Slides, it let people create and edit documents entirely in a browser without installing any software. More importantly, it made real-time collaboration easy, multiple people editing the same document at the same moment, seeing each other's changes live. That kind of workflow was new for most people, and it slowly changed how offices, schools, and teams operate. Google Assistant. It arrived in 2016, first on Google's own Pixel phones before expanding to other Android devices, smart speakers, and eventually hundreds of third-party products. The idea behind it was a voice-powered helper that could understand natural conversation rather than just fixed commands. Ask it to set a timer, play a song, answer a question, or send a message. It handled all of it through speech. What gave it an edge over similar assistants was the depth of Google's search and knowledge systems sitting behind it, making its answers more accurate and more detailed. Google Docs. It grew out of an earlier product called Writely, which Google acquired in 2006. The idea was to bring word processing into the browser and make it shareable by default. Before tools like this, sending documents back and forth by email was the standard way to collaborate, and keeping track of versions was a constant headache. Google Docs made that simpler. It autosaves constantly, keeps version history, and lets anyone with a link comment or contribute. For many people, it has largely replaced traditional desktop word processors. Google Sheets. It is Google's browser-based spreadsheet tool, part of the same family as Docs and Slides. Spreadsheets have been a core part of business and data work for decades, and Sheets brought that capability online without requiring any software installation. It handles formulas, charts, pivot tables, and large datasets well enough for most everyday needs. The real advantage it offered over desktop alternatives was collaboration. A finance team, for example, could work in the same file simultaneously without emailing versions back and forth and losing track of which one was current. Google Slides. It is Google's answer to presentation software, living entirely in the browser and connecting directly to Drive. Anyone who has used traditional desktop presentation tools will find the interface familiar, but the collaborative side of it is what changed things for many teams. Multiple people can edit a deck at the same time, leave comments on specific slides, and share a finished presentation with a single link rather than attaching a large file to an email. For schools, it became especially common because students and teachers could share and review work without needing matching software on their devices. Google Photos. It launched in 2015 with a promise that felt almost too good: free, unlimited photo storage at high quality. That offer eventually changed, but by then the product had already built a massive user base. What made it stand out beyond storage was its ability to organize photos automatically using image recognition. It could identify faces, places, and objects without the user tagging anything. Searching for beach, or dog, or a person's name would surface relevant photos instantly from years of uploads. Google Classroom. It was built specifically for education and launched in 2014, designed to make the flow between teachers and students simpler. Teachers can post assignments, share materials, leave feedback, and track who has submitted what, all in one place. Students submit work digitally, receive grades, and stay informed about deadlines without paper changing hands. It connects directly to other Google tools. A teacher can assign a Docs template, students make their own copy, complete it, and turn it in without ever leaving the platform. It became especially critical during the period when schools moved to remote learning. Android. Google acquired the small startup behind Android in 2005, well before the smartphone era had fully arrived. When Apple released the iPhone in 2007, Android became Google's answer, an open operating system that any phone manufacturer could use. That openness is what drove its growth. Samsung, Motorola, Sony, and hundreds of other companies built phones running Android, which meant it spread far faster than any single company system could. Today it runs on the majority of smartphones in the world. Google Play. It is the official app store for Android devices, the place where people download apps, games, books, and movies on their phones. Before it existed under that name, Google had a few separate storefronts that were eventually merged into one. Play became the central marketplace that made Android a complete platform rather than just an operating system. Developers published their apps there to reach billions of Android users, and for many small developers, it serves as their entire distribution channel. Google Translate. When it launched in 2006, it used a statistical method, analyzing massive amounts of translated text to find patterns, rather than understanding grammar rules the way a linguist would. The results were imperfect but often usable. A major shift came in 2016 when Google moved to a neural machine translation system, which made translations noticeably more natural. Today it supports over 100 languages and handles text, speech, images, and even real-time camera translation, where pointing a phone at a sign translates it instantly on screen. Google Meet. It started as a more polished version of an earlier product called Google Hangouts, aimed at professional and business use. For years it existed quietly alongside other video calling tools without drawing much attention. That changed in 2020, when the demand for video communication exploded and Google made Meet free for everyone. It became one of the most used video conferencing platforms in the world almost overnight. It integrates directly with Google Calendar and Gmail, which made it easy for organizations already using Google's tools to adopt it without any extra setup. Google Calendar. It launched in 2006 and became one of the more quietly essential Google products. Scheduling and time management had always been done through desktop software or paper planners, and Calendar moved that into the cloud. Sharing a calendar with a colleague, seeing multiple calendars layered together, and having events sync automatically across devices were all things it made easy before most people thought to ask for them. Because it connects to Gmail, Event invitations land in the inbox and add themselves to the calendar without manual entry. Google Cloud. Businesses generate enormous amounts of data, and storing and processing that data requires infrastructure most companies cannot afford to build themselves. Google Cloud offers that infrastructure as a service, computing power, data storage, machine learning tools, and more, all accessible over the internet on a pay-as-you-use basis. Google built much of its internal technology over decades to handle its own massive scale, and Google Cloud lets other organizations use similar systems. It competes directly with Amazon Web Services and Microsoft Azure in a market worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Google Keep. It is a note-taking app, simple by design. Launch it, type a note, and it saves instantly. There are no folders, no formatting menus, no complexity to navigate. Notes can have labels and colors, and they sync across every device signed into the same Google account. It also supports voice notes, checklists, and images. For people who live inside the Google ecosystem, it works quietly in the background, a quick place to save a thought, a grocery list, or a reminder without opening anything more involved. Google Ads. This is the product that generates the vast majority of Google's revenue. When someone searches for something on Google and sponsored results appear at the top, those are Google Ads. Advertisers bid on keywords, and their ads appear when users search for relevant terms. The system is built on a simple principle. People searching for something are already showing intent, which makes them far more receptive to related advertising than someone scrolling passively through a feed. That targeting precision is what made Google one of the most profitable companies in history. Google Analytics. It is a tool website owners use to understand who is visiting their site and what those visitors are doing. After adding a small piece of code to a website, Analytics starts tracking page views, session lengths, where visitors came from, which devices they used, and much more. For businesses that depend on their websites, this kind of data is essential for making decisions about content, advertising, and design. It has been the most widely used web analytics platform for many years and remains free for most users. Gemini. It is Google's family of artificial intelligence models, developed to compete in the era of large language AI systems. Gemini can understand and generate text, analyze images, write and explain code, and handle complex reasoning tasks. It is built into many Google products and also available as a standalone assistant. Google developed it as a direct response to growing competition in AI, and it represents the company's attempt to bring its decades of research and machine learning into products that everyday users can interact with directly. Google Lens. It is a visual search tool. Instead of typing a query, the user points a camera at something and Lens tries to identify it. It can recognize plants, animals, landmarks, products, text and photos, barcodes, and artworks. From there it surfaces relevant search results, translation, shopping links, or factual information depending on what it detects. The technology behind it draws from years of Google's work in image recognition and search. It is built into Android cameras, the Google app, and Google Photos, making it accessible to hundreds of millions of people without any separate download. Google Earth. It began as a product from a company called Keyhole, which Google acquired in 2004. The concept was straightforward but visually striking, a navigable 3D globe made from satellite and aerial imagery. Flying virtually from one part of the world to another, zooming into a city block from space, felt genuinely new when it launched. Over the years it added historical imagery, ocean floor data, and 3D building models. It is used by educators, researchers, journalists, and curious people who simply want to explore the planet without leaving their screen.